Welcome back to another edition of the Gridiron Throne podcast, brought to you by your boy, the sheriff over here. And I don't know, I got to come up with a nickname. I might just stick with like my normal nickname of Straz. That's just the easiest. The chosen one was just because I beat you.
Yeah, and like I feel like I fell into it as well, which is like how nicknames are supposed to be.
Yeah, no, yeah,
They're
I'm
not
cool with
supposed to be
Straz.
just like calculated, meticulous. That you gotta just kind of own it.
Well, yeah, and
And
I also gave it to you because of it was the new sheriff in town. The
well, no, no. I
we could
was,
we could
I
roll.
was,
We
I
could
was
roll.
running, I was running shit, and I
You were,
ran shit the whole fucking year. I don't,
except
I don't know where
except
you
for
were.
whatever week you played me.
I don't know what fucking year you were
And
playing,
you
for
guys
sure.
all dodged bullets by not facing me in the final, right?
No,
We
no,
can
no,
pull
no.
tape. We can pull tape on that one.
Pull tape. Pull tape. Fucking guy doesn't have cardiac arrest. I'm winning the championship.
You should have. Yeah.
Cardiac arrest. Whatever. Anyway, anywho, we tore it down. We fucking tore it down. Let's see. What do we got?
Which
What do we
hold
looking
on,
at?
take it a step back. Let's tell our listeners here, which is probably about like 10 people, and that's not even including all of the league.
It's Dave's, Zach, John,
John.
Jeremy.
Yeah, they all
Uh,
listen. But yeah, the topic of this podcast is going to be rebuild and how to do it, some tips that you do use and utilize to do it, because I think that's something that overall, when people hear rebuild, they, and especially in money leagues, they get a little like, oh, wait, oh,
well,
you
let me
know,
say something here. Let
yeah,
me
go
let
ahead.
me say something here. It's like I understand that. I just went from 14-1 to tearing it the fuck down. And it's not easy, right? Like it's really not easy, but like
No,
that's where like our league is so dynamic and fantasy or dynasty leagues are so dynamic like that is that we have to look to the future. Like that's not something we can ignore. And
right.
that's a big dynamic that like most fantasy players get to fucking just bypass. And that's how you know that they're just not capable. They don't have that intellectual knowledge. We have to look years down the road. And for me, I decided that Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, and Stephon Diggs were not it. Did I want to keep Josh Allen? Of course I did. But I realized that those three people were not part of the deal. And sometimes you have to give up a little bit more to start over. And as we're, as we're looking at it, that's not even accurate.
This is last year's team. This is
Oh, okay.
the team that went 13-1 and went to the championship and ultimately would have won. It's safe to
It
say
really
because
would
you
have.
had Burrow,
Like,
or no, you didn't have Burrow. You had Allen, you had Diggs, and then you had did you have someone on defense? Oh, you had DeMar Hamlin.
yeah,
You had a squad
because
going.
he went into cardiac arrest that prevented Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs from finishing the game, and that's why that argument doesn't work. That you just finish it as is, because
Right.
I had other players affected by that, and the if so facto, those players were like literally such key players. That's why you
No,
can't do that whole argument of like we're gonna play it as it happens. No, fuck that, fuck that. I would have lost by a landslide if
right.
that was the case. But anywho, I digress on that.
Yeah, believe me, I understand because going a year back, you know,
Going to your back,
going a year back, I went to the championship as well. And,
Jeremy
my
Chin.
team literally, you could throw it back to the same team that Rich basically has here, or Sheriff, or whatever you want to go by.
It's sheriff to you, asshole. That's
Yeah,
yeah. Hey, it's
well,
Poppy. It's
then
Poppy to you.
I
It's
was going to
Poppy
say,
to
yeah, it's
you.
daddy to you for me. But, looking back at his team and one of the big trades that we made going back to last year over the summer, I think, or right
We're not
before,
afraid to trade.
it was Burrow and Chase for
Oh, that was a hard one.
Diggs and Mahomes. I
That
offered
was a
it up spur of the moment, sitting at work, and I'm like, I want to do this. I'm invested in Burrow and Chase. Let's do this. Obviously, it didn't have the same effect as it should have. It basically moved him on and gave him every tool in the tool shed to go after a championship, which was great. My team missed the playoffs, but won our like toilet bowl, so I ended up with 1-1. Didn't have the pick, but I traded back for it anyway. That's kind of brings into it when you go like into our conversation here is you can go from a championship caliber team and you start looking at your roster and looking at his roster. Yes, you could see here Barkley, stud. Connor without Kyler for at least 7 weeks, perhaps maybe 4 at least. That's a gold mine.
Saquon not stud. Saquon turned his shit around
Generational.
after a couple, maybe down years.
With
Kind
injury.
of turned around. Yeah, like that's how I bought Saquon.
Yeah,
Just because
you bought him
of
with
that.
1-3. You bought him with like 1-3 or 1-4.
I bought him with 1-3. That was accurate. Good memory on that one.
I remember all of them. It's sad.
Yeah.
It's so sad, dude.
I remember I was like, oh, I don't know if I should have sold 1-3 for him, but
if you go back to that draft though, there was nobody worth like saying like, oh, like I would take Barkley over him hands down. And kind of like overall is when I'm looking at it is unless you're rebuilding, picks are expendable. Because I would like why do you play the game, Sheriff?
Gotta win. We're trying to win.
Yeah.
So like, the whole idea is winning.
That's where like I like the idea. So in Dynasty, yeah, you want to be good for 5 years. But do I care about my team?
but you want to win. You need to win out of those 5 years. This is a money ordeal.
Right. And that's what I was about to say is like I don't care about my team 5 years from now. Want to know why? Because that's tomorrow's problem. That's 5 years from now. Give me because half of the players might not be in the league by then. So give me players that are going to win right now in my mindset. Unless I'm rebuilding, then that's a different story, which we're going to touch on. Now, so what you did, well, do you want to run through what you did trade-wise, or do you want me to lead it off, or how do you feel about it? Because this is your team from last year.
I mean, lead it off, obviously. So it started with Henry for 110. That's where it all started, was Henry for 110 with Cody. And at the time, I felt like that was actually really fair. Thought he was kind of winning the trade, but I also knew that I needed to get rid of Henry at some point, right? We needed to know that Henry wasn't going to last, and Henry's going to give him a good year this year. But I needed to get some. Again, we are looking towards the future because we are a dynasty league. So 110, I can't be mad for it. I think when we had discussed it, we were looking at best a second. So the 110.
I think I told you early second. If you couldn't get 2 first, maybe an early second would be.
Wasn't happening, yeah.
And I probably wouldn't have sold them for anything less than like the last first, which that's what you got. And a 10-man, mind you, it's a 10-man super flex tight end premium this year, so things are going to be counted a little bit differently. But that, yeah, you're right. And that, I think I was the one who kind of mentioned it too, as well to you. I said, we're looking at a 30-year-old back. You have 2 options here. You either tear everything down to the studs, or you go after it one more year with this exact squad and see how you finish. The problem is then how the viewers can see it. You don't have much on the bench. You didn't have like Lenny right now, free agent. We knew that coming into it. Rashad White, for the time being. Am I going to say he's the guy? I don't know yet. He's pretty good. But I feel like there's here's the thing, and this is going to touch on the rookie running backs, is there's a bunch of Rashad Whites out there. There's a lot of Zamir Whites out there. That's one of my sleepers. I would love to buy.
The comp is Zach Evans too, coming out of the draft. That would be the comp.
Absolutely. And we also play AP, and your team is set. But the problem is like I said, you either go in and you say, hey, because you didn't have any first going into this. Going into this off season, you sold off, which is fine, no big deal. But I personally look at your team. You had 2 options, and you took the kind of smarter route and said, "Hey, I'm going to try to build up depth. So either I could buy players, I can sell off these other players, get assets, and either sell those picks for elite players, or you build around a young core." But as you know, from experience in our previous drafts, you've had Henry Ruggs. You had T. Higgins fall to you in the second round, which is awesome. A lot of people slept on him. That was your first year in the league too, because you landed Burrow.
I knew. So Burrow and then T. Higgins in the second.
So
right after watching the Natty, the Natty, where Burrow and T. Higgins were both in it. Oh, come on, those weren't hard picks. But
no, not at all. Like, I'm going to pull up that draft because, like, this is going to be foundational.
Everybody slept on T. Higgins like a motherfucker. And I sat there, I was like, is this a joke? You're giving me Burrow and T. Higgins, and they're on the same fucking team? They got drafted to the same fucking team? Like that was one of the most unreal drafts, right? Like
It was a
everybody,
very
everyone
odd
knew I was
draft.
taking a Burrow. Everybody knew I was taking Burrow, right? I knew I was taking Burrow, but
Yeah.
now T Higgins falls to Cincy in the draft, and then falls in the second round of our draft. So now I have that pairing without even trying,
Yeah.
without even fucking trying. And then the next year rolls around, and I sit at 5, and then cold lo and motherfucking behold, our Lord and Savior, fucking Jamar Chase rolls out of nowhere, right? Well, actually, not really out of nowhere. We knew what the fuck he was the year before when he was with Jefferson, and then boom, mine. Like it
Which
worked out. It worked out well, and I drafted well. How about that?
you did. I'm gonna commend you for that because you turned a shit team around really quickly.
I see some shit ass pics though on the screen though.
Oh,
Daz news.
dude, if
I
you go
saw
back and
I
look at
saw
mine,
some shit pics.
yeah. So let's just play it out here. So like you were dead and burrowed in that one. You're welcome for that team
Yep.
name. So Burrow right here. Tua went to Jonathan Taylor. He ended up getting traded to me on that one.
Yep.
Jefferson at 4, Cody. That was a steal. I remember watching it and being like, "Oh, that was kind of a silly pick." Like I don't,
Well, it turned out to be fucking guy's ass, but
Yeah. Clyde Edwards.
Sell him, John. Sell him. My God.
I think I traded him all these picks. Like I'm pretty sure at one point I had all these first and I traded to him. And then I ended up trading for 110 and took Jerry Jeudy.
Ass, yeah.
I wouldn't say he's ass. He's had some injury concerns and a bad QB for a couple of years before.
Ass, dog.
He'll be fine this year. But like
here's
the bread and butter.
Jail right after. Yeah.
Bread and butter. T. Higgins, Henry Ruggs, Jalen Rager. So you can't always rely.
That's what I'm saying. Like the picks mean
they hold a lot of value.
They mean something, but they don't mean anything if you don't pick the right player.
Right.
I mean, which is, I guess, is true in real life and, every scenario in which you're drafting. Baseball, basketball, it follows Herbert in the second round. What a fucking pick. Like, goddamn. And I remember not really being a believer in that. I do remember not being a real believer in Herbert. So, I mean, he definitely, he got Herbert in the fucking second round. And what was that? What was the trade? What was the trade he made?
Yeah, I don't remember what Pat gave up for Herbert. We'll have to look.
I remember bitching about it.
Probably.
I remember bitching about it, saying it wasn't fair, and you're like, Herbert's a top five. And I was like, okay, whatever. Not at the time.
I drafted him that year too in a startup league. I got him in like the 18th round of like a 25 round draft. It was pretty awesome. So moving it forward a year, we look at the team as well. You had 1-1 once again. You weren't in on Trevor. I came to you and I'm like, I need 1-1. I will give you 1-4.
Jesus needs wine.
But I also want 1-1. And I need 1-6 at that point. Mm-hmm. Funny thing about that draft is I did it in a Sox game, so we had to redo the draft, right?
Were you with Dave?
Yeah, I was with the league at that point too.
I was literally fucking so annoyed because the fucking draft was all fucked up. Yeah. If you scroll down a little bit, you'll see somebody got Tooney over me. Granted, Tooney didn't pop, but I was a little fucking annoyed with that.
Yeah. So initially, I think so. Here's another one that I can go and touch on. That first round picks aren't always the thing to build around.
Right? That they're not. I'm telling you, we know this. We know this.
And that.
Javonte after Michael Carter. Granted, I mean Amon-Ra Brown, second round. Amon-Ra Brown. That's a fucking hell of a pick. Jalen Waddle to follow. Hell of a pick. Micah Parsons in the second round. Typically, I would have been like, what are you doing? Hell of a fucking pick. Right. Hell of a pick. So, Terrence Marshall, my God.
Oh, right. Mind you, none of these guys are even on my squad anymore, but Trey Sermon,
Yes, yeah.
We're going back to your team.
XFL.
Yeah. So just showing that you did turn your team around through the draft, but there are spots that fell apart with it. That being said, you moved Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs to me for who'd you move them for?
1-1 and Lamar.
Bijan and Lamar Jackson. So we throw out the team right now, what it looks like. So you got Lamar. You have, Mooney. You traded DJ Moore for a 24 first and Darnell Mooney. So
Yep.
that's like kind of my like list of like things that you should do when you rebuild is insulating picks.
And so we did that without sacrificing too much because where does Mooney sit if there's an injury?
He's still
He
number 3. He's still a
he
slot
go
receiver,
well
right?
no he goes up on the depth chart if there's an injury. Where does he sit even if there's no injury? He sits in the slot.
Yeah, that's still touchdowns. Fields is a good quarterback.
It's not a bad deal. And then to escape away the first, and part of it is also very clutch. That was the deal breaker. And for Pat, his thinking is, well, I just upgraded from the slot receiver to the number one receiver with Jay Fields, who was my quarterback. So for him, it's an easy sell as well, and I get it. So I'm not mad. Not mad. I think it worked. I think it's gonna work for both sides. Except if DJ Moore gets hurt, then he's gonna be a little upset. But, that was part of the deal, though.
Yeah. And then just wrapping it up, the last trade you did too was you moved Tyreek Hill and Saquon Barkley for 224 firsts and
Yep.
AJ Brown. Once again, this is part of tearing it down.
Yep.
I told you before, like one of the big things that I point out too is you want to build around wide receivers and QBs. You have your QBs for the next 10 years per se. Lamar's going to end up somewhere. For time being, he's kind of like in a free agency. Mahomes, Lamar, AJ Brown, you still have 1-1, and you also have 110. So at 1-1, that's Bijan. That's a generational back that'll be around for at least 7 years. Could you have moved back? Yeah, but no one's going to pay. No one in this league will pay for that, unfortunately. So we can't
Somehow
use
Dave doesn't see it.
He
Doesn't
won't
see it
move
the same
3 and
way I
4.
do.
Yeah, he won't move 3 and 4 because he also has holes though. That's why. And I see where he's going from because he wants to grab a QB and he wants to grab a running back potentially. So that's why he wants to do it. I get it, but if you want to win, you have to like Bijan would be the guy to do it. It does make your team better.
Most likely.
Auditing your team now, still, Connor would be a sell at some point. Penny would be a sell at some point. Hawkinson potentially would be a sell to a contender.
They're all sells.
And then you build around your QB and you build around your AJ Brown plus Bijan. Unless someone brings you a great deal. So basically, those are part of it. But another tip I would give out too is don't be afraid to obtain firsts, seconds, and thirds. Especially in the 10-man leagues are different than 12 and 14s. So in 10-man league like this, third round picks actually you might get value. You saw in that second round, look at Javonte fell. All these guys fell to the second round. This year, Pat has a ton of them. He's going to get a lot of good players out of it. Do I think this class might be a little overrated for running backs? Yes, 100%.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it definitely might be. But I mean, we're talking guys that are really unproven, but have some good tangibles, right? Like which doesn't always translate, especially with the competition level.
Right.
So on paper they look pretty solid, but that doesn't. If you're not playing D1 talent at the minimum, you're gonna struggle. Yeah. You're gonna struggle no matter what, right? Like it's kind of abnormal to see a D2 player come now out of D2 into the NFL and then succeed. Because you're not skipping one level of talent. You're now skipping fucking, dare I say, 2 or 3, right? You're skipping D1 and then you're going straight to the NFL. And you're not just dealing with NFL rookies, you're dealing with NFL vets. So that's at least 2 tiers of talent. So if you come from D2 and then you make it to the NFL, damn, bro, I kind of give you some props. So right off the bat that I think about would probably be Joe Flacco from Delaware. That guy, insane. How the fuck do you actually succeed in the NFL coming from Delaware and then win a Super Bowl with the Ravens? Maybe the power outage. Blame it on that. I don't know. Call it the conspiracy.
Defense. Defense won that.
Sure. Yeah, the Ravens, fucking good old Ray was very determined to get that last one.
Yep.
But
breaking it down with your team though, overall you built up 4 picks for next year already, which puts you in a great spot, which still could be added to. You have 2 picks this year that will
help. Or sold.
Sold too. That's part of my little picks to click or little guidelines to go by with rebuild is you don't have to draft those players. You could insulate those, take those picks and trade them for either picks this year, trade them for elite talent. So your rebuild won't take very long overall. Your defense is still solid enough where you could build around your defense too, which defense wins championships in IVP.
So I didn't take it seriously the first 2 years, and I took it seriously last year. And when your defense puts up a minimum 100 points, you are most likely to win.
Yep.
If your defense can put up 100, you will most likely win.
Yep.
That was something that I noticed last year. Anything under 100, 50, 60, 70, not going to cut it.
You relied too much on your offense. Your offense was good enough to do both, though, because
you manage at least 100 on defense, you are going to win. And then on those days where your defense really shows out and you get $150 or 200, it's an automatic win. It's an automatic win.
Yep.
Call it what it is.
Yep.
And that's where I didn't take it seriously the first 2 years, and I took it seriously last year, and I saw it work, and I was like, wait, I don't even need to have like all the best players on offense. I really don't, actually. I just need to pick the right players week to week on defense who are going to pop.
Build around your QBs. Have solid wide receivers. Find the running backs later, and you win your game. Go after your year. If you are ready to win, if you're a top 3 team in the league, win the league. Go buy your players. Sell the picks. Don't be afraid to. People hold on to the pick too much, like they are the end all be all.
No, we're talking Dynasty though.
Yeah. And you want those young talent. You want to be able to sustain the success, but that's not always the key when it comes to winning. If you can do it, but if you build a good foundation and you have the elite players, you don't need to worry about the draft, because when you're drafting at 1-8 or 112, you're getting a later pick anyway. Why not sell it, flip it for an elite talent? You might be able to take advantage of someone at that point too,
And that's where so for our league, we might see Pat take 110 because he's very adamant on being 8, 9, 10, 11.
Yeah.
And so I'll sell him 10 and then potentially get 3 picks in the mid-second round that he basically owns all the second round. So
trading back 2 picks at that point will hurt you.
It won't. To receive 2 extra picks, to receive 3 total in the deal, is worth it. Is going to be worth it. So
especially in this draft,
that's on the lookout. He wants 110
because you can grab a. We'll break it. We'll break the draft down again. Another pod in the future as well, of like what we could do, but like for our first team audit, which is the team that's rebuilding, and overall just throwing tips and tricks of how to rebuild a team, you're doing a good job of it because you established your QBs that you don't have to worry about. Now, if you wanted to flip Lamar, if he has a hot year and you can find a buyer who needs a QB, you could always sell him at this point. But I doubt you will. But you have your core of you got 1 wide receiver that's solid, age 25. You have Mahomes and Lamar. So that's about all I have to say about rebuilds for the rest of this pod. We can move on to next week's show. We can kind of touch on, we'll do another team audit just to see what it looks like from a contender and what you would do with it.
Maybe we'll talk about Cody's team. We'll see what Cody's got going on.
Cody,
dumpster fire.
Cody and we'll do 2. We'll do Cody and Jeremy. We'll do both of their teams.
Cody and Jeremy? Okay.
Yeah.
Jeremy still hasn't given me Kamara, so we're so upset with that. But
send him
Cody's little dumpster fire we can talk about.
Yeah. All right, buddy. Any last final words besides Cody's dumpster fire?
Sheriff's coming. Sheriff's rebuilding. Sheriff's going to get you with the picks.
2024.
2024. I know a lot of people are buying into the picks these days, but I'm telling you, that's not the end all be all. I just had players that needed to get moved at very particular times, and that's why that happened. It wasn't because I buy into picks and that whole bullshit. It was just the timing was right, the value was right, and that's how this happened. I did actually thought we talked about running it back for fucking 3 months, and then just things changed. So, and that's the dynamic of the fucking league, and that's the dynamic of having a dynasty league, and that's why it's so crucial.
Fantasy like that too. Yeah,
and we like it because it's strategic, right? We have to think more.
chess
So,
while people
those,
play checkers. So,
those are my final thoughts, Jeffrey.
all right, I like it. Chess while people play checkers. We'll close it out on that. Peace out.